Okay, hi, I'm 123 out of Chicago. I build amplifiers and they're called Psycho Zip, Mowatts, and Moozilla. Kind of after my dogs. Love my dogs. Zip got his line of amplifiers when he was 5 years old. Took my name right off there. I took 123 built off and I put Psycho Zip on there. Zip became quite famous. Over all the years that I built and went to breaks, I'd lug a little Zippy along and everybody just loved him. He's in all the videos that I do, and that's my dog. And then when Molly hit 5, well, I had to come up with a name. And my friend Postmaster out of Australia came up with this name, and he says, Danny, I got it. He calls me one night. He said, how about Moozilla? I said, you got it. So Molly has a 2-pill, the 3-pill, and the 4-pill line of the Mowatts line. So it's Moozilla on the drivers and Mowatts on the bigger box. My dad actually got me started in radio. He had just radio in the truck, talking local, thought it was cool. Started a little base station, he helped me get it. Put a Magnum 44 antenna in a tree in a trailer park. Yes, I'm from a trailer park. It's not where you grow it up at, it's how you grow it up. We had this Magnum 44 and a Comet amp. It was a tube amp. We were tearing up not 1 row, 2 row, 3, 17 rows of trailer, just nothing but TVI, tearing it up. So that was, golly, a long time ago, and I just really found it enticing to take and get on the radio, talk to a stranger, have a conversation, which is really cool because some people are real shy about talking to a stranger, this and that. You know, we're all grown up like, oh, don't talk to strangers. It's just part of it. It's just, radio is something in the community behind radio. It's a small, and it's getting smaller, and we actually need people to come into radio. What people don't truly realize about radio is when the preppers are the people of the world and you lose cell phone, you lose your computer, you lose electricity. What are we going to have? How are you going to communicate? We have a radio. We're all kind of survivalists in a fashion. So when the phones aren't going to work and everything else, doomsday, whatever, we'll have a radio. Ham radio is way better because you can talk really far with low power. AM, channel 6, channel 11, channel 1 through 40, truck driver, break 19. It's still, you would have communications depending on your power to be able to talk to different areas. The people involved, and you don't know this person. I grew up listening to a guy named Black Diamond. He's out of Texas. The world's most precious jewel, he says. The Black Diamond, big horn, deep voice. I was like, wow, listen to this guy. I'm still a mud dog, but at the end of the day, you hear these greats out there. Then you hear Motormouth Maul, Prime Minister, #1 son. It just, the list goes on. Clarence Carter. I'm like, God, icon. I take my hat off to all of them. These are the OGs, the original guys. After the license of the FCC went to free band, family radio, whatever you want to call it, it was an open. Unless you caused problems, you weren't getting popped. I want to talk to them. When I hear somebody out there, I've always believed if I can hear you, I can talk to you. But the meter really tells you different. I'm not a meter reader, but the meter really does help you. You can know when to key and when you're just wasting energy. But to take and want to take and talk to a person that is, yeah, you could have Johnny and Lucy and Tommy and whatever, just talking skip, and you can get in that conversation. But you get one person that you hear all the time, and he's kind of iconic in your mind, that you just really want to key and get your name called and talk to him. It might be for a moment, it might be for many moments or a half hour, an hour. Sometimes you talk to some people and you just run out of shit to say. That's the truth. There was a defining moment when I decided I'm not going to pay this technician. I paid him. But the guy's name was Jimmy Johnson out of Chicago, Top Gun. Old guy, really mentored me quite a bit. I had a Texas Star. There was a fella called One Eye Catfish and Drive-By Shooter, or Beefeater, in Chicago. Two really dear friends. One's alive, one passed. Drive-By passed away. One Eye Catfish is pretty rough, but he's still alive. They had brought me up to Top Gun shop. I had a little Texas Star. I blew a transistor out of it, and he looked at it and he says, yeah, you have a transistor blown out. I have it, and let's take it and remove the AB1 biasing. Didn't know what that was. All right, so I was like, okay, what is all of that, and what are you doing? And I asked these questions, and he took the time to explain it to me. No differently than I do today. I take time and I break it down for people can commonly understand what I'm really talking about, because I don't want to talk above them. Jimmy took and said, Danny, he goes, it's $100 to change transistor out. And this was, I was 18 years old. $100 should have been like 10 grand. At 18 years old, $100 is like $10,000. I took and I should turn the camera and got all the fools out there. So I should, you know, Jimmy just said, well, this is why I have to do these things. It's $100. I said, okay, Jimmy, here's $100. Amp works. And he goes, yes, you just seen it work. I said, great. It's the last $100 I'm ever going to give you. He goes, why? You don't like to work? And I'm like, no, you did a great job. But I'm going to learn to do this on my own. He goes, great. And I wasn't 1, 2, 3 back then. My handle was Matchbox. So he says, Matchbox. He goes, $100. Here's my card. If you ever have a question, call me technically, and I'll try to explain it so you can get the project fixed. 35 years later, this man is still true to that. So Jimmy was really, he inspired me to take and push forward to fix my own stuff. But Drive-By Shooter and One Eye Catfish had me under their wing and trying to bring me up. Because when I first had a meter, I had one of those triple meters, got coax, look at all these watts. Drive-By Shooter put an RL Drake in my car. He said, this is gonna make you cry. I said, no, I keyed up that 8 fill. I was doing 525 bird, maybe 550 on a Drake, RL Drake, 2,000 watt meter. And I was like, I can do better than this. Then I put an alternator in the car and I put more batteries in the car. And I did better eventually. And I started breaking stuff. I truly did. I started breaking things to the point where I had to figure out how to fix them. But between One Eye Catfish and Drive-By Shooter, I would truly say Jimmy Johnson, Top Gun out of Chicago, Skokie, Illinois, really helped hone me in. But then the change came, and I was at a point in my life that I wanted to do this a lot. So much I wanted to do it for full time. I had a construction business and I was doing home maintenance, remodeling, repainting houses, kitchens, bathrooms, and such. So I have a deep commercial or a construction background. So those skills all came in play when I went to put something together. I didn't want to take and waste my time nor somebody else's money and guess. I've always built something first, tested it and ran it myself, and then I would take and go in production on it. But it was a long time before I went into production. There's a big road before I went into that. I tried, didn't work out. I did this, I have a few amps work, but where my skills really got honed in. I was living in Chicago, Kankakee, Illinois. Ikankee, Illinois is what I used to call it. But I had the opportunity, I met up with Fancy Dancer out of Philadelphia. So when I met up with Fancy Dancer, we went to the first break I ever went to. I used to talk to him on the Mini Bowl, 26835. And that was a fun channel. I wish that would actually come back. That was a fun channel. And I talked to him pretty much daily. It is all skip and it's all conditions, but that's when the cycle was really good. I mean, you just pick up a radio and just call anybody and you're talking to them. 90s, sometime in the early 90s. Dancer took in, I met him, we went out to Connecticut, and we went to Dave's shop. Dave made New Jersey. And Dancer introduced me to Dave, rock and roll. Howard was still alive back then. Wolf had already exited and moved on. But before he left, we did do a fishing trip on a boat. And we went, did some wreck fishing and stuff. It was fun. But the crew that Dave and Rock and Roll had was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. You're on piecemeal. You take and you say, here's a 5 pill, you get 40 bucks. If it takes you 3 days to build it, you got 40 bucks at the end of the day. So you kind of had to go through what you had to do. But Howard was he was a test dummy. If you could keep up with Howard, Dave said, you got a job. I was able to hang with Howard. And at one point I passed Howard up. Howard liked to drink a lot, day drinker. I call him all-time drinker, but Howard, I'll tell you a funny story about Howard. Howard, it was Thursday, and we just got transistors in. Rock and Roll, you know, he was always trying to get Dave, get money, this and that. Dave, go to the donut shop and give a $100 tip a day for you. But Howard got a hold of the pills, at least half of them. And we'd already built with quite a bit. We designated them out for builds. And we needed to do a project, and Howard got picked up for a DUI on his bicycle. He was in jail. No, I shit you not. Dave called him at the jail. Howard, where's the transistors? Howard says, true, on the Bible. He says, if you get me out of jail, Dave, I'll tell you where the pills are. He goes, tell me where the pills are, and I promise I'll come get you out of jail. He says, there's 14 paces this way, 14 paces this way, and there's a bag right there, and it's buried down about a foot. He buried the transistors in the woods in the backyard of Rock and Roll's outskirts. And Dave's like, did you find them? I was like, I got them. He said, Howard, we got the transistors. Thanks a lot. Have a good weekend in jail. Left him in jail. He eventually went and got him out, but yeah, he didn't get him out early. So yeah, after Saturday, it's over with. Concrete Man. Concrete Man was kind of a loose fuse at points. And it's either went, I've watched him work on a unit, it didn't work out too well, and he got really mad at the unit, and the unit got beat up. Short fuse. Dennis seems to be pretty good, pretty smart, but he couldn't control his temper. I remember one vivid moment. We were in the break in New Jersey at Fat Boys in the field out there at 4-H camp, and I was watching Dave Made trucks drive by, and I was with Charger at the time. And the whole Dave Made, here's the thing, Dave's probably the nicest guy in the world. He'd give two shits about what we got going on. He likes to design things, and then after he's done with it, he accomplished it and sweeps it away. The cronies of people he hangs out with or has around him, they're kind of like a bunch of pissed off chihuahuas, and they will take and just bark, 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 Dave Made, Dave Made, Dave Made. Cool. You are loyal to your leader. I get that. But Concrete, I'm sitting there watching these trucks drive by, and Concrete's walking. He turns to me and he looks, and he says, Danny. I said, yeah. Why don't you just take a freaking picture? And I went. I said, I just took 3 of them. I blinked my eyes. And he's like, F you, 1, 2, 3. And I said, Dennis, have a good day. Good luck. Have a good day. It is what it is. I mean, we go out in these fields and have fun. If you think you're going to go into a field and dominate and win and make your paycheck to get home on their dime, you in it for the wrong reasons. Before the interweb came along, we used to come to these functions like this, and the goodie room was like fucking Walmart. It would go on for days, and people that build that you just heard about, and they'd have it stretched across the table. If the actual builder wasn't there, he had somebody that bought the stuff with their own money, and they're selling it as somewhat of a profit. Oh golly, there was Blade Runner, Cocaine Charlie, Cookie Made, Cookie Bayou, Big Man and Dime, Bodine, AC and DC. Bodine was originally DC, and then he went AC, and then went back DC, and he flopped back and forth at the end. Yeah, Ghost Rider, he never really put anything on the table. He was one of those custom builders, basically. And that's what I call the guys that, you have commercial builders and you have custom builders. Texas Star commercial builder. Yeah, today, I can't even count them all. You have so many, but the last names of the original OG builders, You got Fat Boy. BBI came in late. Golly, there's so many builders, but there's so many new builders coming in, but everybody's trying it. Just simply because Tony took and made ICA Walmart or Amazon. It's accessible, and now he has it to where he has control of the machine shop, the machining of the parts and making the parts, and it's all in-house. That was the smartest move Tony ever did, but that was always his dream and his goal. And he set out to do it, and he did it. Now, is he still building amps? Yeah. Is he building where he was in his heyday? Absolutely not. There's more money in parts than actually doing the deed. So, you can provide the parts to make the sin, let's say, but you don't have to do the sin. So I don't blame him to take him back off a little bit on some of the builds. It is a lot of headache and it's a lot of tedious time. At the end of the day, either you're paying somebody about an hour, or you're taking, and if they're good enough, like I was, you go into piecework. And the guy that can take and walk up to any quote-unquote supplier and say, you have all these parts, I can produce you an amplifier, and I'll do it for this much money per unit. If you do that, you better be able to have the chops to be able to complete what you say you can do. That's a hard task. I came into Charger, I rolled in, I had a little trouble in my life. I was out in Colorado, one drink too many, got a DUI. I called Charger and said, listen, I'm in a spot. Can you help me out? Sure. That dude took his shirt and said, here, anything you need, I'm gonna help you. He got me to where I had to go for meetings, and if anyone got a DUI or ever got in trouble, you understand what I'm talking about. So when you take and look at, you gotta go to meetings, you gotta do public service, you have to do this and that. He was there for all of that. 3 months, no driver's license, this and that, and you're just stuck out. 6 months, whatever. You do that. But he was there for that. Not only he provided me the transportation where I had to go, he provided me a place to live and a job to work at. So when he brought me in, sure, I worked hourly. It was humble, but it was a job, and I didn't have no overhead. Because why? He didn't charge me no rent for like a year. Dude, I mean, you have people out there that give, and you have people that take. I'm a giver, Charger's a giver, and then you got people just take. And when you realize they're taking from you and just using you, they're short-lived, they're gone. So the history of when you have people that help you and this and that, we can rewind a little bit and go back to the X-Force days. When I left Dave's shop, Dave said, hey, Danny, I'm done. I just drove 12 and a half hours from Jersey to Chicago, had breakfast with him, and he says, hey, I'm shutting it down. I'm like, okay. He says, well, you can hang here, we got rent, this and that, and paid up. And I'm like, I'm good with all of that. I said, but if you ain't got a job, I have no reason to be here. So I went back to Chicago. In the meantime, I make a couple phone calls that Dave's shutting it down, Dave's shutting it down. A couple, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. And they're like, no way. So I'm out. I'll go get a job at a stereo shop, just installing stereo, something to do. I was okay. And when I took and get phone calls for 30 days from Carl saying, hey, let's build boxes, I'm like, sure, we can do that. You come up with $15,000 for we can have some capital to buy the materials we need. Back then it was 15 grand, got you going. 15 grand right now wouldn't get you started, or even, it's just a thought. Carl's like, okay, I can do that. I said, but you have to have suppliers. I said, I've been out building in the dark. I said, but you have the money, you have the suppliers. He kind of kept to his end to a point, and then just kind of fell off. And then here I'm making phone calls because I knew people. And then I started getting people to click in and buy. But I ended up teaching Carl, Johnny 555, Stingray, AM Power, and 181 Andrew was already pretty much trained up because he did some stuff with Dave. So he kind of came in, supported it. And these guys all had to learn from me the Dave made way. And did I steal anything? That was the whole whisper. Danny stole Dave's computer. No, I don't know how to run a computer, and I still don't today. I use an Apple iPhone, and it kind of helps me through life. But stealing someone's computer and stealing designs, no. I sat on my father's kitchen table with some drafting paper, and literally drew up the cabinets that I liked. What I didn't like, everything I liked in them that Dave did. His circuitry was superb. It was a million times better than anything that I've ever worked with. It tuned up, it ran so smoothly. Why change it? Okay, I didn't change it. I changed the cabinet design. Instead of working in a shoebox in a hole like this, I had a fold over top like this, came off. I even had little baby rails that would come off. It was a 6-piece cabinet. And then it got simplified to a 2-piece cabinet. Fold, 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 and a lid. But back in the day, they wanted to see the bottoms of your amplifiers. Why did they want to see bottoms amplifiers? Because mofos wanted to cheat. Double-sided boards, this and that, and people weren't thinking to look under it, and this is concealed, and they have this up in the roof, and there was a lot of cheating. I never had cheating a day in my life. I went out there and followed some simple rules that Dave gave me, and that's when I really came successful in the shootouts, was with Dave. I asked him, I said, if I tie up with somebody, Dave, what do? Do I turn up the bolts? You know, they're gonna do that and they're gonna break. Just turn your dead key up. As long as you're swinging forward and just wiggling forward, you'll keep your 100% modulation. As soon as you back up, you're gonna lose 50 to 60%. I said, I can't afford to lose 6% of modulation. So I've always took that in hand of when you go out and you shoot out this and that in a bind. The rule of thumb used to always be half a wavelength or 12 feet. That's the slang for it, 12 foot. Why? I never really asked Dave why. He said 12 foot, 12 foot, 12 foot. Okay, fine. That worked great for a fresh and new Toshiba. As things get older, things change. And if you don't check your inputs, and that's something that we never did, that's something that Dave never shared with the people shooting for him, whichever. He'd set your truck up or tell you how to set up the truck because he knew how it was going to react with every box that he would build every time. But years go by, those boxes start decreasing HFE, then the actual tune changes a little bit. You end up taking and changing coax out to adjust for their old age, for example. I guess I have ability, I grew up as I grew older, the ability to block certain things out. And normally, bad stuff, oh, I can block it out. But the good things or the funny things like concrete thing, take pictures, snap my eyes a few times, I'll never forget that. It was just funny as heck. But, you know, in today's world where we're at, HGs are long gone. I mean, Toshibas are long gone. We're dealing with Chinese parts. They're okay, they work well. If you respect them, you understand how to run them. But if you go and take and say, I'm not checking the inputs, I have no clue about coax, and just hook it up and have a bad standing wave, it's going to be a repeat of anything else. It's just going to fail. But how did you learn anything in your life? You had to fail. Man, you failed miserably. I know I failed miserably many, many times in business and relationship and life in general. But what do? You pick yourself up and you just keep on going. But at the end of it, you go out and want to talk skip, have fun. Man, talk about a pressure release. They're like, man, 1, 2, 3, you're about to radio all day long. Yeah, I am. I'm listening to it. But if I want to get up and stretch my legs and I think I got conditions, I'm going to go and kick the mic a few times, throw that fishing line in the water and see if I'm going to catch a whale or a fish or a guppy. But whoever I talk to is still a win because I was able to take 5, 10 minutes to take and get that little pressure release of staring into a unit for hours. You take and you build 2-pill, 4-pill, whatever, 35, 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, whatever you want to spend on it, depending on how fast you are. But you get into a party platter, you're talking 45 to 70 hours to build a 32-pill properly. And know when you key it up and make it breathe for the first time, and I use a Texas Star, love Texas Star. And it breathes every amplifier I run for the first time, that Texas Star sees it. At 2-pill all the way to 32, that Texas Star sees it first. Because if something's gonna go awry, that thing can handle it. You can take a Texas Star, hook it up to a chain link fence, key it up, and probably talk skip, and it won't break for the most part. As long as you got it tuned. If you can tune your fence, you can talk in a Texas Star. But they're very rugged. I don't know how many times I've blown up a box that I built with a higher Q or a mid Q or a lower Q, meaning how much resistance it could bounce out back it can take. The higher the Q, the less resistance it can take. It's kind of like a child that takes and has to live in a bubble. if it comes out and someone sneezes on it, it's going to die. Well, that's kind of a high Q amplifier. That's why I don't like a 6-pill. Run like a raped ape. I don't like 2-pill circuits. And believe it or not, all the Texas R's have always been built in 2-pill circuits. And when I started with Dave's shop, everything was built in a 2-pill circuit. So you'd have, golly, a 2, a 6, an 8, a 12, a 16, a 24, 32, all done in 2-pill circuits. But the problem is when 2-pill circuits, the more you have in a combiner, you start losing efficiency. And it seemed like after a 16-pill and 2-pill circuits, man, you got a combiner that's this freaking big, and you have coax going all over the place on the input and output. And that's where the Dave design really was great, but it wasn't so great with a 2-pill circuit. That was much better when we went to a 4-pill circuit for a simple reason why everything shrank down. Instead of having 16 ports, you have to 8 ports for a 32-pill because you only have 8 4-pills in there. So when you take and look at the efficiency of something, you can make a 2-pill circuit run. Why? Because it's a high Q. But a 4-pill is a mid Q. An old TNT or a Texas Star, those are low Q amplifiers. They'll still get there. It'll go up slow and it'll stand up and it'll still talk for you. It works fine. Low Q or mid Q, but high Q is dangerous. You're on the raggedy edge. You need about half the amount of drive that you normally would for a mid Q or a low Q amp. So when you look at the dynamics of an amplifier, what would you rather have for the general public? Something they're going to break all the time and keep taking backdoor money? No, I'm not like that. I don't get time to work on everybody's stuff every time they sneeze and it breaks. I want them to be successful. I want them to follow some simple rules and go out there and have fun with your radio. So over the years, I've done many, many Facebook Lives, YouTube Live videos, and explaining some of what I've explained a little bit on this video. So I've always looked at people like when I came up. I didn't know, but somebody helped me to help understand. A lot of what I understand now, I took out of my pocket, broke the stuff, and figured it out and understood why this is doing this. I understand why this 120 is there and why this 1000 is there and why this 120 is there. And if you change that, it changes the dynamics of the amplifier because you're changing the frequency of it. Certain wraps in an amplifier changes the frequency of it. Certain ferrite mixes changes the frequencies of things. You can have an amplifier that can show you a gazillion watts, but won't break a grape. Everything's perfect, but it's still not making the power because it's transmitting on a higher frequency, multiple frequencies, and it's just making power everywhere. It's just sporadic runs. If you're not on frequency, you're not going to be transmitting on frequency, and you're going to be bleeding over, you're going to cause problems, and you're going to just carry on to just pissing everybody off, and at the end of the day, you're still not getting your name called. So there's all that. Then you dig into antennas. Ooh, deep subdeck antennas. I never looked at an antenna and said, oh yeah, someone worked really hard on an antenna. I don't care if it's a Wilson 5000, a Fire Stick, or a 7-element beam, standard or stretched. I put up a Mako 7-element. Great antenna, out of the box. You can put it up and just flat out just kill people with it. I run 1000 watts right now. I don't run a lot of power, don't really need to. I run more if I need it, I'll put it in. I'm a DC guy. But when you get involved into the antennas, it's not what they say, quote unquote, it's not all about the power, it's what's up on the tower. And that's a true story. I put a 7-element together, Mako specs. I tried many different FLA, OMA, tried all these different designs, and at the end of the day, every one of them talks good. Some had more rejection out the back, some just leaked out the back. But once I figured out what I wanted to do, what did I do? I went right back to Mako specs on channel 8, tuned up to Mako, and then I did a Chinese rub and tug. I moved the spacings a little here, a little there because of the hairpin system that I got off Mr. Coyley. It's a little bit broad and it's a little bigger than what he designed it for. It won't arc at the end of the day. Very widespread. Now I've seen high gain do, you saw them, 6 meters even, they had a hairpin that ran 2 half-inch elements straight down the boom with isolation, plastic isolation things. and then they had a little wire that shunts it out, and then they had their feed on the dipole. See, that's all a direct feed is on a beam, is a dipole. It's a center fed dipole. So if anybody ever asks, well, I don't understand a hairpin and direct feed and all that, go read about a dipole antenna. It simplifies it for you. You have a quarter wave positive and a quarter wave negative, and that's it. Do you need that shunt? Do you need that hairpin? Yeah, if you want. Otherwise, you don't even need it at all. Moron makes an antenna with with no hairpin whatsoever. It's just two elements, a direct feed, it's dipole. So what I learned when I disconnected my dipole, or my hairpin, I went to a dipole, and everything was just a little bit longer. The spacings were all still the same, but the driven element, or the hot element, and then D1 was all just a little bit farther out. So the thing about beams is, this is what kills me, is people can do this computer stuff, but what that computer can't tell you is what's around you. Because your antenna sees everything. It sees a car, it sees a truck, it sees a fence, it sees your dog, it sees the water, the rain, the snow. It's out there and it's living and breathing everything that antenna, as you turn it, it sees different things. A ground plane, it sits there and it's already used to everything it's there. It's there. This is what you have, 1 through 40. A beam, that can change every time you turn it. It's seeing different stuff. So a base station beam, a mobile, is kind of alike. Because a mobile, you go down the road, it sees everything. It sees a fence, sees a pole, sees a truck, sees a car, whatever. That's all how that works out. But at the end of the day, you just have to understand how much reflect can your equipment handle before it's going to break. Once you realize that, then don't go there again, because it's going to cost you. And again, it's a failure to learn what? A lesson at the end of the day. Well, here's how you got into CB was my dad, and when he passed, it killed me. I mean, I shut shit down. And it took me about a year to take and bounce out of it and said, either I'm going to go paint, or I'm going to sit on my butt and try not to burn my left hand. And that was, my dad, he was a big part of why I got into radio. But the people that in radio is the reason why I stay in radio. And I stay this as a full-time job and something that I'd love to do. Some days, no, I don't feel like even doing it. Well, guess what? That's the day I take off. Because I'm not going to go down and try to mess up a project that's going to be 20, 30 hours in, and I'm halfway through and I realize I made a mistake. And I got to redo something. I got time for redo. You take and you look at the shootout scene. That's changed over so many years. The technology behind the shootout scenes now, and I wish every club would get engaged with this, is line level recordings. I got into line level stuff from Stickman out of Waldorf, Maryland. And that was with Kilowatt out of Virginia. They got me into the iPad stuff. Everybody's got their thing. They can go get some rack gear. You can get an iPad. You can get a Dave made transmitter. You get a motor mouth modulator. You can get all of these different things to make this grand sound, this incredible, awesome, robust audio. And for someone to take and say, oh, it sounds like shit, dude, you're still walking on a $3 microphone. That's okay. You have opinion too. Just move forward. I see so many people they wear their heart on their sleeves. I'm passionate about what I do. Now, I kind of do live my heart on my sleeve quite a bit, but I got thick skin too. A lot of people take and say, Danny this, Danny did that, Danny stole that. Hey man, who are you defending? Oh, the Dave made guy. Oh, the Donkey Stomper. Oh, the BBI. Oh, the 307s. Those guys. Cool. Y'all have your opinion. You don't like me, you don't watch my stuff, but guess what? BBI said it. My haters are my biggest fans. But that's okay. They can take and just eat. Maybe they'll learn something out of something. One little thing I said, maybe they'll learn that I got through to him and he still hates me, but he's using an idea that I had, that it wasn't the iconic God that they follow every day. That's okay. I take in, if I died tomorrow, I ain't got nothing written down. And unfortunately, the things I did have written down walked out of my life when I got divorced. Things disappeared. whole bunch of bird equipment and inventory, but it is what it is. If that one person thought they were gonna pee in my parade, I just dig in my pocket even deeper and I come back tenfold. And that's where I'm at. I'm running good, and it's just slow time in season. Summertime's rough. That's why we go to breaks. So if you're planning to build, now I'm looking right at the camera, planning to build this stuff, you better have some deep pockets, a lot of downtime, and you be able to handle some constructive criticism. Because if you post your stuff on the interweb, you have 10 million eyes looking at it, and they might not say peep or squat, but the one guy that does, guarantee he's gonna get under your skin. If you ain't got thick skin, you might wanna go get a paper route and try there. The guys that really took me under, it was one I catfished in Drive-By Shooter. Drive-By Shooter had passed away. There's another guy, Irett Malone, he used to go by Master Control 24. He had died in Indianapolis, car rolled over, couldn't get him out. He was a big man, he burned alive. He wasn't, I think he was more of an influencer to me to take and get me to take and get past him. And the day I got past him, the day I came back from New Jersey, I waxed him. And they never messed with me again. But as far as the techs that helped me over the years, Terry 5.5, Top Gun out of Chicago, Ghost Riders helped me out. Pete and me used to talk quite a bit when I worked down in when Muddy Waters was alive. Pete, Muddy, and Sledgehammer, we were all down in Georgia. I mean, I was around some iconic builders and techs over my career, but sometimes we just talked about hamburgers and dinner. Everything I've ever had was call Danny, get a hold of Danny, 123. So my number is 609-350-4798. That's the number I have right now. Yes, it's New Jersey phone number. It was my second tour. So many people have my number. Why haven't I changed it? It would be cheaper. Because I think I pay in New Jersey tax, it's like $18 every month extra on my phone bill because I got a New Jersey area code. I'm still supporting in Atlantic City Boardwalk, I guess. I'm all over Facebook. I'm on YouTube. There's numbers posted up. But for now, whenever Frank gets his video ever posted up, he's 20 plus 9 years into this, I think. Someday he's gonna do some Netflix, something imaginary, Tubi TV, free TV. He's gonna get paid. And y'all, he can get Extreme Radio, CB radio guy, old Frank 007. Give him your support, because someday he's gonna put this up and he's gonna make us all famous. Well, hopefully we ain't 2 toes into the dirt when that happens.